On a avec nous M. Tony Hayton, qui est le collectionneur du Florida Highwaymen. On peut même l'applaudir. Applaudissez-le. La même chose. Can we have a round of applause for Mr. Diamond? La personne qui a facilité, c'est Mme Alison McPhee du consulat américain.
Thank you. Okay, well, welcome. Welcome to the Montreal Art Centre. It's great to see you all here. This is a very special exhibition for us to hold here at the Art Centre because it tells a tremendous story, and the story is as important as the art is. And Tony Hayton will tell you a little bit more about the 26 artists of the Florida Highwaymen collective group, which is an amazing story that dates back over 50, 60, 70 years out of Florida, where these great artists found their way to create these wonderful Florida landscape paintings, and it's taken over a half a century for them to have the recognition that they're currently getting through this and other exhibitions that are ongoing celebrating their works. So it's interesting for us here in Griffintown to hold this exhibition at the Art Centre, because this building and this area dates back to the Industrial Revolution of Canada, started in this district, in the areas of Little Burgundy, St. Henry, Point St. Charles. This is predominantly where the Black community of Canada started, going back 150 years ago. The Florida Highwaymen story is all about how you can't keep good things down, and you can't keep great works down, and you can't stop people with ambition and with perseverance that want to make a way for themselves. We opened this art center to make it a home for artists in this city where they can show their art, display their works, and have a home to be with other artists in an affordable way, to be able to have a place as an artist in Montreal. Being an artist is not easy. Artists have a tremendous difficulty in having their work shown, having galleries display their works. So the concept here is to enable artists, emerging artists and professional artists and artists of all types working in all different mediums, to give them a home. And that's why we have over 40 artists in the building. We have 3 floors, and we have a great deal of people coming through the building every week and every month, and it's getting stronger as we develop the community here. So when I was first approached by the people at the consulate and at the Ottawa Embassy, US Embassy, to hold this exhibition, I really felt and knew that this would be a fantastic venue for it, because we share a lot in common with the story of the Highwaymen being the point of wanting to expose the talents of the city's artists, and how these 26 artists struggled and spent so much effort and time to be working artists and to sell their works. And you know, I think that basically Tony, I'll turn it over to Tony.
And what I found out was the Florida Highwaymen were a group of 26 black artists that started painting in the South, in Florida, in the mid-50s, at a time when there was a lot of segregation, there was a lot of racism, there was a lot of prejudice, and there was just at the beginning of the US Civil Rights Movement as well. And so I thought, well, this is a really interesting story, because these particular artists had all come from one place at one time. Is that a call from you? No. Actually had formal training, but like Allison had said, they were using gypsum board or wall board for their canvas, and they were taking the frames from windows and doors and using them as the frame of the art. And so what they were doing is that they were trying to create art inexpensively, and because no gallery would represent them, because in those days the only people that were able to sell art in the gallery were white people or established artists. And by doing what they were doing naturally, they were actually part of the civil rights movement. So what's important is not only that, because they haven't really been recognized for that yet, but these artists now, half of them are dead. Okay, out of 26, there was one lady. She raised 7 children on her own.
These people weren't slaves, right? This was
No, they weren't slaves, but
Conditions.
yeah, they were living under very hard. There was two lifestyles. There was a lifestyle for the white people and a lifestyle for the black people. And so basically, they weren't slaves, but they weren't treated. They were paid minimal amounts of money. So them actually doing this work, they were fighting against what was happening to the black people at that time, because they were creating their own freedom.
C'est une organisation qui représente le gouvernement des États-Unis dans un pays étranger. Alors pour les Américains, ici au Canada, c'est un pays étranger, mais on est des amis, les Américains et les Canadiens sont des amis. Alors on veut, au consulat et dans les ambassades, on veut promouvoir la culture américaine, et on veut vous donner des histoires de l'histoire américaine. Et quelque chose qui est une grande importance dans l'histoire américaine, c'était le American Civil Rights Movement, le mouvement des droits civiques aux États-Unis. Et ce groupe des Florida Highwaymen représente un groupe très unique, des gens très entrepreneuriaux qui n'avaient pas beaucoup d'occasions de gagner de l'argent, sauf de travailler dans les vergers verger pour cueillir des oranges, des limons, des fruits. Ils ne gagnaient pas beaucoup d'argent comme ça. C'était envers, je crois, $7 par semaine. Et au lieu de faire ça, ils ont décidé entre eux qu'ils allaient, au lieu de ça, vont faire des peintures.
Today we're going to interview Isa 9. What kind of job do you do at American Consulate?
So my job, my title is called Public Affairs Program Assistant. And what I do is I help to organize events, I help to write speeches and do a lot of different things, but they're all related to sharing American stories with Canadians, because the US and Canada are different countries, but they have a very important diplomatic relationship because they're very, very strong friends. So everything that I have in my portfolio involves talking to Canadians about American culture, society and values, and talking about what we have in common and what kind of knowledge and experiences we can share in order to improve both of our societies.
Why did the American Consulate bring this exhibition to Montreal?
That's a very good question, Madison. So like I said when I was explaining what my position is, part of my job is to bring American stories here to local Canadians. So in Montreal, we thought that this was a very cool story that we wanted to share because it talks about a time in US history that was a difficult time. The people who painted these paintings that you see all around us, the Florida Highwaymen, lived in a time when the civil rights movement was very important in the US. They lived in segregated societies and they didn't have a lot of opportunities. So we really like the story of how these painters overcame adversity by moving from a very difficult lifestyle, picking fruits in fields where they were making about $7 per week to making paintings that took them less than an hour to make, and they sold them out of the backs of their trucks on the sides of the highway for about $25 per painting. So they were able to make a better life for themselves just by changing their realities, and they were very perseverant. And we really wanted to bring that story here to Montreal to share it with you all.
Do you have a favorite painting in the exhibit, and why?
That's a very good question also. It's hard to choose because there are so many great paintings, but I have a soft spot for the only woman artist in the group. As you guys all know, there was only one female artist and she had 7 children, so she had to work really hard to feed everyone. And I really like one of the paintings just behind us over here that is a landscape of a red sunset. I think it's really beautiful and striking.
Thank you.
Thank you. Youth in Motion TV. Stay tuned.
Bonjour, aujourd'hui on va interviewer Tony Hayton.
Hey Jason.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
You speak French?
Un peu de français, mais non, not really.
How many Florida Highwaymen paintings do you have?
Here at the exhibit we have about 35, and I have about another 40 or 45 pieces as well that are in the United States. This is the first time they've ever come to Canada.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very cool.
How many paintings do you own altogether?
I hardly own anything other than these highwayman paintings.
How much money were the painters making at first?
Well, in the beginning, in the middle of the 50s, if they were working in the fields, picking vegetables and fruit, they may make $7 in a week, but if they could paint a painting in a day, they may be able to sell a painting for $25 or $35. So in a week, they could make over $100 painting, as opposed to $7 in the field.
How much is a painting worth today?
Well, some paintings have sold for $10,000 or $20,000, and some paintings, the artists that are still painting, sometimes they only sell them for $500. So a lot depends on the artist and the painting and how old it is. It can be a lot of different prices.
Have you dreamed to be an artist yourself?
I would love to be an artist, but I'm a terrible. I've taken lessons. I need to take more.
Have you recruited painters?
Have I which?
If you have recruited painters.
Recruited? No, not really. No, I just got interested in the highwaymen because of the story, and I like the art.
Are the artists still alive today?
Of the 26 artists, 14 are still alive, and many of them are still painting. And this is 60 years from the beginning, and they're in their 80s.
Where do you live?
In Ottawa, not too far away from you.
How did you find out about the Florida Highwaymen painters?
I was looking on the internet for a painting that looked like a Florida scene, and I saw a painting on the internet that was like a beach with palm trees, and I thought that's exactly what I'm looking for, and it said Florida Highwaymen, and I went, what's a Florida Highwayman? And then I heard the story about the 26 black artists all from one place at one time, and using construction wallboard for their canvas and selling them from the backs of their cars, and doing this at a time when black people were still discriminated against. And I thought, this is a wonderful story, and it needs to be told. And luckily now we have the art here to help tell the story for others to know about it.
Which origin are you from?
I was actually born in England, but I was only 2 years old when I came to Canada. So I'm a Canadian.
And how old are you?
Oh, how old am I? I'm 64.
Wow, thank you.
Jason, thank you. Youth in motion!
How much does it cost to manage an art gallery?
How much does this cost to what? To manage? Well, it costs a lot of money to. It's not about managing, it's about operating. And it's a complicated effort to manage a building that is this diverse and that is this big. So we work at it, and we try to generate different ways to monetize and to generate revenue to support it. We have artists that pay for spaces, and we sell art, and we have art classes, and all these things combined bring in revenue to support what we're doing here.
Is it possible to find objects like gold, copper, silver, diamonds, minerals, etc. in art galleries?
Well, if you're asking, is it possible to find items of precious metal and to find items that are on display? Yes, if you have a art gallery that specializes in featuring things like jewelry, then you'll find all kinds of different precious metals on display done by artists. Jewelry is a very important form of creative art. So to answer that question, yes, there's a lot of precious metals you'll find in the context of galleries and exhibitions.
Have you ever drawn a painted a tableau yourself?
Have I painted myself?
Oh,
Sure, I've been painting since I'm a kid, younger than you are. I've always painted. It's a wonderful thing to paint and to draw. You should do both. In order to be a good painter, you should be drawing first. It's important.
since when have you had a gallery?
I answered that question already, but we opened this place in 2010, and it's been now over 5 years, and it's been growing each year, and it's becoming better and better.
Where does your interest in the art come from?
My interest in art comes from when I was a young person, you know, going back to when I was just 10 years old. It was something that I was very attached to, and it stayed with me all my life. And I've always been passionate about art and painting and drawing.
What pushed you to become the owner of an art gallery?
Well, because I was always interested in art. I started painting when I was about 10 years old, and I stopped for 27 years. I stopped painting when I was about 20, and I started again when I was about 49. And sometimes you don't forget. It's like riding a bicycle. You know, they say you never forget how to ride a bicycle. So it brought me back as I got older that I missed art, and I started painting again, and I became very passionate about painting. And then I started painting at a school, and the lady that ran this class, the school, closed it one day. And I felt very bad. I said, wow, how could she close the school on me? So then I said, you know what, I'm going to open my own art center. And that's what I did. I opened the Montreal Art Centre, and then we opened the Griffintown Art School. Now we have hundreds of students here studying art, and we have teachers teaching art, and we have artists working in the building. See everything in their imagination. Adults see things through their knowledge and wisdom of years. Now, there's limits to knowledge. You can only know so much. But there's no limit to your imagination. There's no limit when you're a kid to think of what you want to do. You know, someone recently wrote a book that people should do as an adult what they wanted to do as a kid. You want to be a rock star, go buy a guitar and practice for 10,000 hours. You want to be a ballerina, take dancing lessons. And you do it for 10, 15 years, you can be a terrific ballerina. So it's all about focusing and staying with your imagination. And I told this story the other day. I went when I was 18, 19 years old, you know, around the age of some of you guys, and I took a painting that I painted and I brought it to one of the most important galleries in Montreal, which is the Walter Klinkoff Gallery. They're still in business. The son runs it now, 2 sons. And I saw the old man, Walter, and I wanted to sell him this painting. And he said, well, you know, he thought I had a lot of chutzpah to come in and try to sell him a painting because it was a copy of our Cornelius Krakoff, which is a famous Canadian artist. And he says, you know, thank you for bringing it in. But like, you know, it's like the old joke. How do you know, New Yorkers say, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? The guy says, practice. Right?
So you have to have a dream.
You have to have a dream.